Let's talk about Filipino money. This video is aimed at helping expats who come here to the Philippines. Also, maybe helping me gain a little bit of perspective from my Filipino friends in the comments. The first thing that I get asked the most often is about housing. Now, housing is going to vary wildly and drastically depending on where you're located. So for instance, where I'm at in Eastwood City, I actually got a really good deal on a 2-bedroom condo with a maid's closet, 3 bathrooms, a dining room, a kitchen, a living room, really nice living space for 30,000 peso. So doing the math, let's see here. So 30,000 peso, 50 peso per dollar, that's like $600-700, I think, per month. And that is considered to be a really good deal for the kind of condo I have here in Eastwood. But before you go thinking that I just have tons of money, remember this. If you're an expat working for a company here in the Philippines, a lot of times they will give you a housing allowance. I maximized my housing allowance by pairing up with a friend who I work with, and we became roommates. Meaning between my housing allowance and his, we don't really pay that much for rent. There are condos that you can purchase as an expat. Remember, as an expat, you cannot own land here in the Philippines. However, there are some things where you can kind of get around that, like you can own a condo. As with any other place, yes, you can do pre-sales. There's new construction going on all the time, but the sad thing is with pre-sales, you're basically making a payment before you even move into a place or even see it with your own eyes. So it's kind of a gamble because you don't always know what you're gonna get. Of course, this is all based on my experiences here in Eastwood City, but I assume pretty much the same thing is true in BGC, Makati, and some of the other built-up areas here around the Metro Manila area. Next thing, we're gonna be talking about groceries. And tonight, see these little stuffed animal guys? This one's like a watermelon, I think, and this one's a lime, and a tomato, and an ube, maybe? I'm not sure on that one. And a cauliflower down here, oh my goodness. So, Rustan's, this grocery store I'm at, if you come here and spend enough money and get enough of these little stickers, you can actually have one of these guys, or you can simply buy him. I think you can purchase one just outright. Maybe not, I don't know. The thing about this that I really like is that back in the day, 50s, 60s, even into the 70s in the States, stuff like this happened. It was a marketing thing and it worked for the time. But we don't do that stuff anymore in the States. So, anyway, just thought I would share because I thought it was really cool. Hey, would you look at that? It used to be $66.50. Now it's $66.50. Savings on groceries really depends on your brand dependence. So if you're the kind of guy like me who can only have Hunt's or Heinz ketchup, then you're going to have a bad time. You're also not going to save a lot of money. I use ketchup as an example because it's one of the ones that I hear about the most often from other expats. There are a lot of other things as well. If you use local brands and support the local economy, not only can you save a little bit of money, you're also creating jobs. Wet markets are your friend, and I didn't learn this lesson until later on in my journey. I've been here now for almost 3 years, and my first trip to a wet market was videoed, I don't know, a couple of months ago. The best advice I can give you is to not be too picky, or as they say here, arte, about your food. As far as orders of magnitude and how much you can save by sort of doing things the local way and going to wet markets and all that, you can end up spending about 1/5 or less of your original budget if you buy local. However, if you're worried that certain things might not be available here, such as, I don't know, A1 steak sauce or just whatever it is that you particularly love to have, worry not, there are special expat shops just for you. They're kind of expensive though. Oh, here's something kind of cool. So a lot of times when you come here to the Philippines, you may notice that you get free products for some reason with your purchase. And they're not always things that kind of complement the original. Like for instance, if you buy a big bottle of shampoo, something that complemented that would maybe be a smaller travel size bottle that you can refill. And that totally makes sense. However, sometimes when you buy something using our example of a big bottle of shampoo, sometimes they'll give you a tote bag or a coin purse. It's not uncommon to sometimes be given a random bag of chips with a 2-liter of soda, or a bottle of soda with a couple of bags of chips. I don't get it. I love it. I really wish that we did more of it in the States. but it's so confusing. It seems like sometimes it's the grocery store actually doing this. Because you'll see that they've actually taped like a bag of chips to a bottle of soda, or they'll just tape two products together. It's kind of cool, kind of interesting. I don't fully understand it, but it's a thing here, and I kind of wish they did more of it in the States. I know I repeated myself, I'm just emphasizing. One thing that I've sort of mentioned in previous videos, but deserves to be in this one as well, bulk discounts aren't as much of a thing here. Meaning that if you're used to going to the store and say, buying 48 rolls of toilet paper and saving a bunch of money, and then using those over a period of time because you save, you know, a few cents or maybe $1 a roll or whatever, don't expect that same thing here in the Philippines. Here, people are used to buying what they need and that's about it, and stores haven't really caught up with the whole buying in bulk thing. So when you're at the store, be sure to actually do the math, because sometimes you're paying just as much for the big pack, if not, oddly enough, sometimes a couple of peso more. At the beginning of the video, I flashed this big wad of cash. Now, this I pulled out specifically for this reason and actually has to go back in the bank to pay my rent. But I pulled it out so that I could demonstrate something to you. That's how the money came out of the ATM. Rather than getting the largest bill, which is a 1,000 peso, Security Bank, one of the banks that I do business with, they tend to give you change. This is a good thing and a bad thing, and to be honest, I really kind of wish that they gave me the option, because sometimes when I do need to pull out large sums of cash to pay utility bills or whatever, I kind of wish that I could just, you know, give them, you know, the larger bills and not have to have a stack this big. Most banks don't do this, but Security Bank does. Just letting you know. Speaking of ATMs, this is something that you're going to want to sort of plan your life around if you're here in the Philippines. Here's what I mean by that. Here in the Philippines, there are payday weekends, which I sort of did a video on a couple of weeks ago. Oh my goodness, that was more than a couple of weekends ago. And when those hit, people are at the ATMs all the time. There are lines everywhere. Also, if you need to pull out large sums of cash out of the ATM, a lot of banks have a 40 or 50,000 peso limit on your funds. That means that you can only pull out 40 or 50,000 peso depending on your bank and their rules and regulations. Normally that wouldn't be a big deal, right? You go back the next day and you pull out more. However, in my experience with both BDO and Security Bank, sometimes that 24 hours turns into like 48-ish. So that is something to definitely keep in mind. Speaking of BDO and Security Bank, both are relatively big banks here, especially in the Metro Manila area, and they both have online portals where you can manage your funds and do all that stuff, and that's great. However, let's face it, they suck a little bit. Especially if you're spoiled by Bank of America or Wachovia, or wait, didn't Wachovia get bought out by Wells Fargo? I think so. If you're spoiled by those services, then these are gonna come up a little bit under where you expect. However, you can get pretty much everything done. In fact, maybe even more. Something that shocked me is you can actually pay your utility bills at an ATM here. You can see a brand new movie directly out of theaters for anywhere between like $3 to like $10, depending on the quality of the theater, how high they have the air conditioning. Yeah, that's a thing we gotta talk about in another video. Whether snacks are included, and if the chairs recline. Also, where you see the movie has a tendency to dictate the price. So for instance, if you see it in a built-up metro area, you're gonna pay a little bit more than maybe if you go out into the sticks a little bit. If you're somebody who absolutely has to have the AC on, and something tells me if you're an expat watching this, that's probably gonna be you. Expect for your power bills to be astronomical. For instance, my roommate and I try to control it as best we can. However, we still end up with like a 7,000 peso electricity bill every month. No fail. So now we get to talk about what happens when you buy stuff. Buying stuff is one of those things that sometimes you just have to do. For the most part, here in the Philippines, you'll notice that you get like 7 days to take things back to the store, which is a far cry from this norm in the States, which is usually 30. And it's also usually a no refund policy, meaning you can only exchange. In addition to that, a lot of times in stores, the people selling it to you will plug it in, test it, make sure it works before they give it to you, which makes a lot of sense for electronics, and it's saved me a lot of time and a lot of energy, because a couple of things I thought I was buying brand new in the box and they plugged them in, and it's like, oh, it doesn't work as expected. Let's talk about the economics of travel. Travel here in the Philippines can be as expensive or as cheap as you want it to be. Well, nobody really wants travel to be more expensive, so it's probably better for me to say it can be as cheap or as expensive as you're comfortable with it being. So you can stay in hostels, you can stay in high-end hotels, you can travel by way of bus, you can travel by way of renting a car. There's all kinds of things that you can do. You can travel with friends. The pendulum swings widely is what I'm trying to say. For example, I've got a trip planned in December that's going to take me from the northern parts of the country to the southern parts of the country and all places in between, and I'm only spending a couple $100s on it. But if I was really looking to blow money, the same trip could have cost me a few grand. Saving money on travel here in the Philippines does take a little bit of insider knowledge because there are just so many places to look. Booking online is sometimes kind of hit or miss, you never know what sites to check, or where it's cheaper to try to book directly. I do suggest talking with your Filipino friends about your travel plans. They may have tips that'll save you a ton of money. Or even better, they may come with you so you can split the costs. So let's talk about money when it comes to food. Here in the Philippines, you can eat a meal as cheap as 50 peso or sometimes even less. Or if you're looking for a really nice steak dinner, you could spend like a lot more, like the equivalent of US $50 on a meal. Meat is generally expensive, so is cheese. However, if you're okay with a little bit of rice in your meal, or if you're okay with trying something local or chicken-based or whatever, you can save a lot of money. Being on a ketogenic diet, or as some people know it, the Atkins diet, is kind of an expensive thing to do here. As mentioned previously in the video, tipping when you eat out, usually between 20 and 100 peso is really all you're expected to tip. Dealing with cabs here in the Philippines. A lot of times, especially around touristy areas, especially if you're pote, which is white, cab drivers may ask you for a lot more money than what they're due. My general advice when it comes to dealing with taxis or cabs in general is it's okay to have a driver ask for an extra 50 peso plus the meter. However, if they don't turn the meter on, that's a huge red flag. One interesting thing about the way that the economics of the Philippines work is it seems like everybody has a side hustle. This means that sometimes you'll have taxi drivers or Uber, Grab drivers, whatever, who will let you know that if you want to rent them out as a dedicated driver for a day, sometimes, they'll let you know that they're available to you at a certain price, or maybe they also do like Avon or something like that. And it's not just like taxi or Uber or Grab drivers, it's pretty much everybody. All of my Filipino friends have a side hustle that they do, and that's actually kind of awesome because it means that you always have a guy or a gal. Case in point, I have a friend whose family owns a barbecue joint. I have a friend whose family owns an electronic shop. I have several friends who do editing for YouTube videos. I have countless musician friends. And even know a few people who have nursing degrees, so they can do that on the side in some way or another. Oh yeah, I also have friends in the travel industry, so that's kind of cool. Would that mean that YouTube is my side hustle? Oh yeah, and as a side note, if your friends ever invite you out to celebrate your birthday, remember, here, that's your treat. One of the major points that I've made in this video is that you can't simply rely on the dollar to peso conversion. However, I also think that it is kind of important to understand generally how that works. So let's go ahead and take a look at a little bit of Filipino money. I'll give you, as it sits right now, approximately its value in US dollars. And since US dollars and euros and Canadian dollars are roughly about the same right now, it'll probably be about there too. This is 1,000 peso. Currently, it is the largest denomination of Filipino money, and it is worth roughly $20. This is 500 peso, and roughly it's about 10 US dollars. This is 100 peso, and is roughly about 2 American dollars. Here's where I would put a 50 peso bill if I had one right now, but I can't find one. 50 peso is about 1 US dollar. 50 peso bills are red. This is a 20 peso bill. That's roughly, it's a little bit shy of 50 cents in the US. There's also a 200 peso bill. I don't see them that often. They're a little bit rare as far as how often I come by them, but they are a thing and they're green. Well, that's my list. I hope that this video's been helpful for you. If it has, let us know in the comment section down below. Till next time, don't forget to like, subscribe, and do all those things that make me love my job. Also, be awesome to yourself and amazing to each other. Bye. Thank you so much for watching today's vlog. If you'd like to watch more content, that's on screen now. Also, if you'd like to support this channel, you can find a Patreon link at the lower right-hand corner of your screen. Next vlog?